there's another woman there. There's Tia, and then there's Brandon shooting video, and then there's somebody else who I could recognize. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Who else do you see? Annalise, Morgan, Dave. I saw Sean Conley. Do you recognize anyone else? No. No worries.
greatest thing was our communication. this highway coming in, we had to plow through because of the debris that was filled up on the debris. Plowed 80, 90, and when I say plow, we use V6 ducks to do it. We plowed a line through so that we could get the victims in. Press. Back it up. Go. Down straight. Figure it out. Okay. Pretty good bit of video? Yeah.
All right, press back to the vans. Back to the vans. go to the back part of it. Right.
Perfect.
Let's try to go.
Perfect. This is for CBS.
CBS, that's us.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I should, you know what? I'd rather go do it myself.
Yes. Look at his, I forgot his title. He has some big title now that the president gave him. Yeah, so he's probably the director. I think he's the director in Indian Internal Affairs for the president. Well, you know his brother.
They call him chief.
Yeah, he's still a chief, but he's my seat mate. He's my seat mate. Because Jared left, so John took his place.
I didn't realize it was the same.
Yes, so his brother just replaced him as the house seat.
This recovery's taking longer.
Just taking pictures of
You're good.
The other thing,
They have, I got an email from Larry Chapman.
right,
Mom,
that's coming.
one other person.
That's helpful. They don't need to do more. I mean, they really need to. Companies are just now starting to. Well, oh, you know, the USDA just sent another 200 million. Mine.
Give it 48.
Yeah, it's from, yes, from each county.
So it's like I've got
So you have to have a certain percentage to have a quorum from each county too, because it weighs, like Transylvania weighs the most, but then you got a little bit in Swain and.
Anyone from the firehouse?
Well, what happens if you don't have enough people?
Yeah.
Well, think about it. Well, think about it. Jake has his. Bill has the list, has the most in revenue, we still have a percentage. Do you see what I'm saying? So you have to have representation if we had to replace it.
Let's take 30 days.
Why are y'all sitting? There's someone, I can see why I might need it right now.
Yes. Well, it has to be in his district. Yeah. So it's only that corner. But yes. Yes. So the whole county would be in the meeting, but anybody who wants to run for that would have to be in that corner in McDowell. But that they're still in it. You see what I'm saying? Yes.
Yeah.
It's not. Henderson. Did you want to go back that way? Yeah, that road is not built back. So the road's gone. You know what I mean? It's gone.
Oh, and not be able to. I saw, yeah, I saw them.
No, Tanner.
Good, because, I mean,
Tim's working on that.
that's, well,
And one of the frustrating things
I didn't even throw it out.
You have all the right-of-ways, and you guys all together. I said, Tim's got that, don't worry.
Got what?
About the right-of-ways for FEMA on Highway 9 where.
Oh, the hazard mitigation stuff?
I told him, I thought
You
I
got,
was like,
you
he's
have
got it.
woody debris, fire.
Yep.
Whatever.
I was like, don't worry.
I mean, we've got streams covered, we just don't, well, we think we have enough funding there, nobody's really thought about wildfire mitigation. We're just not already next year.
I've been preaching it in the house.
This year.
I didn't know I was supposed to count that. I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
I asked for it Friday.
There you go.
I did. And I said, so now I get to say, I told you so.
The U.S. Forest Service last year, unfortunately, I got maternity leave, said we were their #1 risk in the country.
I told him that, I said, we have.
Yes, thank you. That'd be a good thing. Perfectly managed.
So that's the way I told them exactly. I know I can or turn it down.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. I was like, wait a minute.
Did you make it? Let the guy
Victoria, good to see you in person. Thank you. Thank you very much. How are you? Good. Good to see you too. Tim, how are you? Good. Good to see you too. Hey, Chris, how are you? Okay. Yeah, that's great. Hey, hey. I'm good. How are you?
Me.
No, not everybody.
Hey, folks, if we please have you take your seat, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You're on the other side. Yeah.
Disclaimer, and welcome. we have a house for $20. So I knew when you said that.
Good to see you. That's right. How was the tour? You do a good job.
Graduates there, and they see if they have lecture series, and they invite us to come speak at that. So, that's what they did. Well, you guys go pass a budget now. There you go. All right.
We're gonna finish it?
Just pass the house budget.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm in the Senate House, so I just stop all
Kind of been a reorganization.
So what do you think about it?
Good morning, thank you, Representative Balkan.
Hello again.
Back again.
Yeah, thank you everybody for being here. Senator Ted Budd, it's absolutely my honor to have a friend and colleague all the way a decade ago when we served in the House together, to coming in 2022 in the U.S. Senate together. And now it's absolutely my pleasure to have the Secretary of Homeland Security here, Markwayne Mullin. And I tell you what, before the vote confirmation even happened in the Senate, he was on the phone to North Carolina to start arranging this visit. And it was still hours before he would ever be officially confirmed, but he was already starting the ball rolling for North Carolina. This is a man that not only knows how to serve his country, but he knows how to work on a business, lead a business, and so he's bringing those skills together. He's a person of action. He's a great individual. Love his family. He's been, again, a great friend. So I'm so honored to have him here. But before we get going, if we could just start with, we'll start here on the right, and then we'll go back over to John Anglin after Matt, and then come back around here, and we'll turn it over to the Secretary.
You got to introduce your wife to that.
Yeah. Oh, Amy Kate, if you would. We actually, in the seat of highest honor right here for Amy Kate Budd, who's been with me on.
She's my favorite. She brought me some cakes.
Yes, that's right. He puts up with me. He loves Amy Kate. That's right. My guest at the State of the Union was Steve Freeman, who was from Bat Cave, just up the road here. Just led heroic efforts there. A lot of heroes at these tables, and that you've met today, people that pulled together, so many volunteers for this section of Western North Carolina. But it's been amazing over the last 18 months what we've seen in this state. How many people have pulled them, together, brought in volunteers from all over the country, but it's just been absolutely amazing. Steve, we'll turn it over to you, and then we'll go over to Peter. Just, you'd introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Steve Freeman. I'm the Chief of Batcave Fire and Rescue. We're the last volunteer department in the county up there. We were kind of ground zero when all this hit us in Chimney Rock, Lake Lure. If it weren't for all the volunteers and everybody that lived through this, and all the glory goes to God for it. We were blessed not to have more fatalities than what we did. It could have been a lot worse. But I want to thank you all for coming and all the help that we've had so far, and for not forgetting about us, because we've still got a long ways to go.
Well, let me tell you, between Tim and Chuck and of course Ted, no one in DC is forgetting about it, because they are your biggest advocates. But Chief, I can tell you as a fire chief without even being introduced, is because your mustache.
You won't remember my name,
but I'll remember the mustache.
All right.
That's great.
I'm Peter O'Leary. I'm the mayor of Chimney Rock Village, and it's my pleasure and honor to welcome this group to the village, this distinguished group. And I'll echo what Steve said. We appreciate the support. This has been devastating to our community, but we definitely appreciate all this support, and look forward to a strong recovery with the help of these individuals, as well as many more.
I'm Dave Natonsky. I'm Secretary Mullin's Chief of Staff. Thank you all for hosting us here. It's an honor to be here on our first trip.
John Mitchell, I'm the Henderson County Manager. The folks just up the road, I think y'all are going to go through there later today. I think it's probably incumbent upon me. I lead an organization of about 1,000 individuals who stepped up and went to work before the storm and been working since. And they deserve a lot of thanks, but I think I should just point out, I know that maybe this is for the benefit of the press, but we've got members of the General Assembly here, congressmen, senators, so I appreciate your efforts, who've really stepped up for the people of West North Carolina. The General Assembly has voted to provide resources. The Congress has voted to provide resources. And I look around the table and I can see men and women here who have been working to get those resources in West North Carolina. I'm thankful that you're here, and the ability to make the decisions that need to be made,
The mountain. We were the ones that donated. 34.5 inches of rain in 36 hours to Chimney Rock. And we were very fortunate. We had no loss of life in our district at all. We lost structures. We lost roads. We lost every power pole. Continued to operate the whole time. If it had not been for volunteers and state and federal resources that came in, we probably wouldn't have. What Mr. Mitchell said, we just.
How y'all doing now?
We're still struggling. We're still are still not complete as of today. I haven't got it completed yet.
Just at your station?
Yes.
Station?
Yes.
What? I mean, you've been working on it since.
We had to put a treatment center. We had to put a treatment center in.
Okay.
We had to jump through a bunch of EPA's hoops and DQs.
I'm Tim Moore. I'm the first trip that the president took when he took office.
trip, Mr.
Yes,
Secretary,
it did.
here to Western North Carolina, and that sends a very the work you're doing. You've already done great things to speed up resources, and I do want to. The state legislature has also really stepped up in a significant way to help.
Well, the president made it very clear when we were going through the nomination, a tremendous amount of work to go. And as he quote, he says, people in North Carolina, Aaron and her team at FEMA, they were prepared to go. Needed some of the stuff that needed to be released. Everybody was ready to.
Senator Tim Moffitt, former member of the House, when Tim was actually my speaker at that we sent down through Bat Cave and Lake Lure. That happened longer ago, and in some respects it seemed like it was yesterday. Care about our state, and without fail, our recovery, and it's lengthy. And some of the things that we all see doesn't fit in the same box. So some of the issues at one another. We have state policies that we're working on, as well as my colleagues in the House and the Senate have demonstrated to be very meaningful. So we appreciate your being here. Ted, honestly, been there for us. Can't thank you enough. Pleasure to have you here.
Now we've got Rutherford, Polk, Henderson, and McDowell counties. I grew up about close to the state, roughly $2 billion between 1.8. A huge investment, and any other storm that would be. The way you've come in and sped things up, that's been. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Me when we were up in DC. I'm Matt Calabria, and I'm with the governor. Appreciate y'all being here. As you know better than anybody, there's no substitute for being there. But I also wanted to specifically thank you for expressing your interest in we can to move quickly on public assistance projects and disbursements. We know a lot of local governments are working very hard in cash-strapped times. Others have alluded to the state's doing everything we know to do to make sure that we appreciate your partnership in that.
Thank you, Matt.
Firm called the Branch Group, located in North Carolina, Virginia, doing management team after the storm hit Yancey County, where we had the most rain. The Rockies just devastated our community. So, County about, please help us. So, I want to thank Congressman Edwards, his team. And on a personal note, I'm a citizen, proud citizen. Oklahoma. My mom's from Oklahoma. So, yeah.
Whereabouts in Oklahoma?
Good to have you here, sir. Thank you for being here. Appreciate here and appreciate what you bring to the table.
An officer for FEMA for North Carolina. Just real quick, and just really appreciate the cooperation and teamwork we've had.
Good to see you. I'm Jennifer Balcom. I serve in the House. Working with us and appreciate everything that FEMA is doing. To do that. I know we have a long road. We're all aware of that, and just continue to support us is what I can ask, and help us continue. And as a
Yeah, Mr. Secretary, we've had the opportunity to meet on a number of occasions. First of all, I just want to thank you for making this your first trip after being sworn in, just like the President did. A great deal of comfort in knowing the commitment from the White House to seeing us rebuild. By the way, was part of this area. After that, due to redistricting, we traded county. That what you see here in this area can be mountains of Western North Carolina. Strong, resilient people that have murky waters, no pun intended, of dealing with FEMA. I certainly appreciate the partnership that we've been able to build. Senator Budd with our state legislature, I've got fiscal ship, and being able to have a rainy lead the charge in our rebuild here.
Thank you. Dave DiOrio, Mayor Pro Tem of Lake Lure. I would invite everyone to the grand reopening of Lake Lure. It's going to when policy and appropriations in balance come together, amazing things can happen. Thank you all for all due to your efforts. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
I should have postponed it a couple of weeks. Rob.
It's absolutely great to have you here. Absolutely great to have you here in the region for your first visit. We fully understand there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. So we're excited about what you're bringing to this organization. We will execute.
Good afternoon. Victoria Barton. Thank you all for having us here and spending the time. It's also great visits, familiar faces, so very much appreciated. Congressman Tim Moore as well. You have fears. I know Karen and I have been up to the Hill several times. Advocates, and thank you all, and just want to thank the Secretary for your leadership.
Melton, I'm the fire chief of Chimney Rock Fire Department. And welcome. Everybody's support that's helped us. I say us, but and we still work hard today. My full-time job, I work.
This is a full-time job?
No, sir. This is all volunteer. Is it? We have no. We work hand in hand, and to be able to pre-storm prep, and after the storm, in order to get our issues that we have here fixed, and here and all y'all's help.
Chief, you have to explain to me the flag.
That flag out until yesterday.
Yeah.
That was in my office. Sorry. In the river, and he couldn't think but to give. To me. And I wanted to do something. With it. Display it.
I think it should be framed.
I would.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will you make sure?
Thank you.
Will you make sure we'll get that taken care of?
It was pulled out of the river as we was doing some rescues and things like that. And he come to me a couple of days later and gave it to me. But so, thank you. I'll do that.
Thank you, Chris. Administrator.
So I'm Karen Evans, and that's really hard to follow. So
It is.
Continue to serve, so I'm not going to take any more time. After that. That was very good.
Administrator, I'll just say one quick thing before I turn it over to the Secretary. Of the state, $134 million in public assistance hazard mitigation grant program, and bring some clarity. There was prior to Secretary Mullin, Secretary to evaluate, which led to a real logjam. Very competent team and staff they need a proper review, eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. That still needs to happen. We've got a great team reviewing those requests, and I appreciate that. Things are so. We're grateful for your help. Turn it over to you. Appreciate it.
Well, guys, that took the journey out here with us. Too, because a lot of tornadoes. We see a lot of destruction, but I have never seen anything like this. And I can't even imagine what it looked like 18 months ago. But to see. But that usually takes months of recovery. You guys, 18 months later, you're still here, and it's just one. Bill is still emotional about it. But to see what's happening and see the revitalization that's taken place from the road lake. I mean, you wouldn't have believed that lake was. Packed full of soot and debris because it looks beautiful and pristine now. It's pretty remarkable. But I'm proud of one of the. To make it our first trip to see the private-public partnership from the state level to the local level to the federal level. This is how it's supposed to work. But everybody said. We were able to work past them. We're still working past some of them. I don't know how many times Ted and I have had conversations about this before Secretary was even a thought. We have this thing called the redshirt freshman class. JD's part of it, or the vice president's part of it too. And from the get-go, this was going through with my nomination. Obviously, I was somewhat familiar with it just because of the conversations we've had. But when he started giving me action items, this is what we need. It was brought to my desk immediately, and we were able to get to work. But there's a lot of lessons that can be learned, and one thing I do believe is when we step back and we have an awful disaster like this, it's prepared moving forward. And so as we go here and we take questions and we hear from you guys, please be as open as you guys ever heard the 5 love languages? Right? It was written in North Carolina. It wasn't. We've had this conversation. At all, I want to know what we can do better. And so when that's not the point, because they've done a great job, but what is it that we could make? I think, Tim, you were talking about, and by the way, first name works just these titles with me, but Tim, you're talking about some of the redundancy from. Expand a little bit on that, and so we can see how we can break down some of those walls. And then, press, we'll take some questions from you guys.
I probably actually brought something for you to read on the airplane. On your way back.
I need something else.
So there's probably 3 standpoint. The first one is the hazard mitigation grant program. When most of the buildable land in our area here is problems on our recovery, especially when rebuilding our roads. Government, if we could have permission to use it for a core public purpose, allows us to not have the conflict between present day value, but I think it protects the integrity of the federal design to make sure that we're not building a structure back in. Work with. I spoke to Victoria and Greg about it a few weeks ago, and Tim's been working. Is just really a memorandum. Was a recipient of a hazard mitigation grant, and the state or the local government needs to use it for a core public purpose. Then here in writing is permission to do so. Let's get into the other one. There's a consensus that this was a 1,000-year storm, and I think that's a uniform consensus. But public policy is that we're not in a flood hazard area in the beginning, but they are now. Is limiting our ability to rebuild structures. Adopted a 200 historic flood event, part of our statutes, that we're looking to get a memorandum of the National Flood Insurance Program if we are very constrained, but allows your communities to rebuild. And Biltmore Village is historic. It's the gateway to Biltmore Estate. We have structures 11 feet above that. You have a lot of historic You have a lot of historic buildings there that more than 50% substantially damaged, which requires them all to be. Ask is from the state's perspective. It's 1,000 years. These constraints that are imposed on us federally.
Karen, do you know about this?
About the anniversary guest list.
What do
Now, and so I took a note down, sir, to follow up on his.
I will, this will be my biggest action point in rulemaking. Surely there can be an exception someplace.
Agreed.
Not all agencies, but we just put layers and layers on stuff. That requires it. It's legislation. It's these guys. If it's so, we'll make this a.
Yes, sir.
We'll make this a priority. Yeah. We'll make this a priority. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
I think we do have some paths to solutions that the Secretary was able to. And another tranche is imminent. Rob's team and the to process many of those. And Rob, do you want to speak to some of the parceling that we're doing so that they can be eligible?
Absolutely. So the properties that are eligible for buyout, we looked at them, no major issues, and we'd be able to proceed with those. And our team is doing that now. And so we're working through those. The last bucket are the ones that have to figure out. We did figure out that we're able to do. Initially,
Could I speak to that, Mr. Secretary?
Go to.
Okay. So the property owner has an acre, and we as the state our roads. So the way that it's written right now, it disqualifies them. The ideal solution would be to allow them to remain in the program for a core public purpose. Use that third of an acre for our. You have a pre-storm value through the hazard, and then we're constrained by the Uniform Act, which means we can only offer a present. But unfairly punishes the property owner for something that really can be corrected.
Do that in the grant program.
Okay.
Because spelled out. So we'll look at it.
Sure.
But it now probably can't do that. I can't do that. We'll get back to you or Ted. We'll get back to Ted's office and
is the way that the mitigation rules are written. I don't know if we're going to have relief on that, and that's why we're trying to find.
We'll sit down. If we had, when we're dealing with flood-prone areas. In the past we've had moment I can think of off the top of my head. I won't mention it because I'll stir. But we're dealing with a 1,000-year flood that we had to look at it from a different perspective and give flexibility where we can. One of our highest priorities is to clean up this backlog. clean up this backlog. And we're looking at our backlogs, we're cleaning our plates, so we can start fresh again. This flexibility, but if it's not, then that's where Ted and Tim and Chuck come.
About it's a great law, but it wasn't written.
I don't really think we were thinking this kind of very.
Yeah.
This kind of very.
Yeah. When you get out here, you think we don't. Yeah, it's a good idea not to put this road. And one of the things that I'll just kind of like put on top of this, things cascade into one another. They're you know, some of which you'll drop by today. They've been waiting for 18 months. They can't go to the next. They can't go to the next thing until the federal government. The idea that these two laws. I know why it was that way, and Mr. Ash and the rest. It's great, and they're pleading to the law, which is what we would all expect. Some clever lawyer that feeds.
Listen,
I would just beg of. I could come up with one with the senator.
Oh, I've got the solution.
We're in a holding pattern. These gentlemen are too.
I get it. That's why I said we're going to clean up our backlog. But I will say, applies common sense. We lost that long. Like I said, if there is a way, John, there's a way. We're and the rest of the team at FEMA. If there's a way to get it done, we will. Touch with the federal elected delegation and see how we can work it out.
On Mr. Mitchell's comments, obviously we have.
By the way, the governor.
For substitute, but I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we talked for quite a while.
Thank you for doing this urgency and appreciate the urgency around a couple of things to build on that. One, we obviously want to make practices are built toward coastal storms rather than places with sticks rather than sand and other such things and so or whether they're what the amounts are really helps us. In addition to that, I know the shutdown has caused some hiccups on right now. Request in for the hazard mitigation grant program to enable we've been working on and make sure that we've run all of those to ground. And I because we're in constant communication, but we know with 60 we're going to need additional funding to get the job done. And so for awareness, ask, which he brought up as recently as January, our reconstruction efforts and rebuilding efforts and put our in HUD funding, but we're also hoping to get some additional are hoping to access those funds to help cash flow to help cash flow. Local government can get is pretty low, and the administrative burden and the paperwork. I would just flag that as a potential future issue for you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So I actually have something. So the burden, as you saw, on the small communities, is expensive. Nothing in the bank, with a credit card maybe, but nothing in the bank. So I think part of the legislation, the FEMA Reform Act of 2025, of a universal application program. We have a communication inquiries from the public. She became a national champion grant writer. Into all the different colors of money from all the different agencies and organizations. Application program where it goes in and then query for information to support that particular, streamline the effort to get the resources us of a burden of every week or so querying application is there, and every time a question comes out, we're writing a data to support that one element in a discrete item. It's more than just an ease of application. I would say to take a look across the board of where resources out there is maybe something that we would, even if the legislation doesn't go through.
Well, we are working before the pilot with specifically for that reason, and so we're working jointly so that you don't have to continue to fill out the application going starts this year. So we are working on that right now. So the data portability piece.
So at times, I'm curious to know what y'all see as being the solutions. I'm just curious to know what y'all are seeing on the ground right now. To kind of get some things.
Well, Rob, I think you should start.
I'll start. I think the challenges that we work through in trying to process a project. The big frustration is changeover of people, and applicants understood the project, and you're moving. He's gone, and now somebody else comes in. So we're making folks do work twice, if you will. Work through it and then figure out, okay, how do we get it where it needs to go? Because and when you can't solve it, what's the escalation strategy and the trigger to get it to the next regional administrator? We can't do something, then that means we can do it. And with her team, one of the things that we will do is positions out in a couple of months. His replacement his replacement will be Jordan Rink, and he won't transition out again. His permanent role will be a long way towards bringing consistency, and we'll continue staffing him out with staff that are consistent and they're not rotating in nature, so that you have the same people that you're working with. But also it gives Jordan the idea or the understanding of this is an issue and he can take it from cradle to grave and actually get it fixed. So the same person is going to be there working with you. I won't get into the policy piece because that's one that I can't speak on. But in terms of the energy and the effort that we'll put forward, more engagement. When there are issues, my expectation is just what I told you, sir. I'll be back here in a few weeks and we're going to sit down and work through what you want to talk about with mitigation. I've got all sorts of energy, and this team can be at a table sitting down solving problems everywhere that we can. And what we've been doing a lot of lately is when we get to a sticking point and we can't solve it, we kick it up and we pull in Victoria and Pesatane, and we say, this is now one of those policy things that we're thinking about. Statutes, regulations, and policies. The first two we can't do a whole lot with. The policy we can do things with, and that's where we put a solution on the table and say, can you make this work? And we'll keep doing that.
If I could also interject, and John, this speaks largely to your question. The House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee has already passed the FEMA Reform Act of 2025. I helped write it. Greatly to the feedback that I've had. The issue that we have is when you go back and look at that bill, you think, wow, this really would have worked for us had it been in place on September 27th. On an airplane and build an airplane while we've had to fly it. Heard on the House floor, but I think that a competing here is that the President put in place a FEMA Review Council and doing its work and taking feedback from the same people here at this table that had the benefit of testifying before that committee, using the large part of what I think that we can expect is that once and to compare that report with what the Transportation Act, take the best of the two worlds, combine them, and get over to the Senate. I say that just because in trying to help build a that John was speaking to earlier.
Those 3 months after the storm hit, they saw going on debris removal, and even up to 6 to 8 months later on some. Well, we need more evidence to know where the debris is and where the debris is, and we're sitting there going, well, there was a where the debris is, and I as soon as they got out there and actually down their RVs, propane tanks, everything else, but sitting out there, we see the contractors sitting out there. Why are they not moving anything? We're just waiting on a work order. We're waiting on a signature saying we can start removing stuff. If a tree was at a certain angle, you couldn't touch it, and Green River, we kind of saw the heat map on it, where if a dot was green, that was a touch that one. We don't know which storm it was from. It might have been a past one. It might, it's not out there. We've already paid to move all the equipment out. Can we just grab them while can we just grab them while we're out there? Great, kind of helping our contractors navigate that. You know, a business on the river there, they're trying to get back open, but there's a big pile of debris.
Unfortunately, you know, every community is different. Which is why when we start looking at reforms, what role look at is FEMA should never be actually the first responders. Right. Able to help fund it, and then give you guys the flexibility. That's what I would like to see.
Did a great job. The ones that were out here, it was me. I was like, nobody's looking. Just grab it.
I get it. That may be one of the reforms you're talking about, but we had people ready to move it, but we're on a we just don't have the resources to pay for those contractors right up front. Reimburse for that, which I understand that system. But that's been at least get that initial money out quicker. You know,
Corey and Karen and I spoke about this just recently. Rob, we probably somebody here from the conception to the grave. I think it's official because no one has ownership of it. You put somebody in place to have ownership. Glad you're initiating that because we're going to do that same thing across FEMA. How to get the doors, or how to get the money out the door. Anything else? Because we got about 10 minutes and we need to take some questions from the press.
It's true.
Nothing about.
To say just two things to you that I thought a lot about. If I had the opportunity to speak to you. Said because it's really important, and Mr. Ash talked about it a moment ago. My staff went to every single house in the entire county. The value of every parcel in the county on January 1st. It was a titanic effort. To get picked up. What we cry out for, and you were absolutely right. It's music to my ears. Is some gentleman that would go a long way if we could do just look at this. Happy to fight in appeals, but secondary to that, I just wanted to say this one thing. I learned a lot in the disaster, but the one is just how much these particular devices rule the lives of the citizens. They talk to their family. When the cell towers went out and we had no ability to get cell service, and my great fear is that if there's not some work done, there will be another disaster where there will be war without service. They couldn't buy gas. They couldn't access the money. That they had in the bank.
Already.
I just had to offer that, sir.
We'll take
A question, one off topic.
I like the on topic.
All right.
next permanent head of FEMA and under FEMA 2.
President Trump's executive order, we're going to be able to get everybody paid through paid pay. A lot of FEMA employees still half of pay period 3, 4, 5, and 6 to be in their banks by Friday. Some of the financial institutions may have to wait till Monday, but the majority of everybody will be paid by. It's kind of a rifle shot. Our payroll is very expensive every 2 weeks. The one big beautiful bill does allow me to pay.
Coming from, if you don't mind me asking.
On what?
The administrative staff, how is that being funded?
So that's being paid through the one big beautiful bill. And it's because the Democrats, they want an open border because they don't want to fund the Customs and Border Patrol, and they don't want to deport those that are here illegally. And it makes no sense to me. I mean, because you enter the country illegally, and now you want to also defund the border that's keeping them from coming in, and they're willing to defund and shut down 22 agencies that are tasked with keeping the homeland safe. That's like defunding the Department of War, because once you get to our shores, Department of War stops, Department of Homeland begins to protect us. And now we're in the longest shutdown in the U.S. history, all because of some political theater with the Democrats, because really they're afraid of their primaries, and it's putting people's lives truly at risk, because we are at a critical point to maybe not be able to fulfill the missions that we have to keep the homeland safe. But yet at DHS, all 22 components are still up, still operating, and people are still showing up to work. That's a tremendous amount of dedication of employees that I get to be over right now, and I'm really honored to do it. But thanks to President Trump, we're able to get them paid. But moving forward, it's Senate and the House have got to come together, and we would hope the Democrats would join us in this. And I'm not trying to play politics; it's just the facts that we're dealing with right now.
And if it goes through reconciliation, CBP and ICE, it's not like any reforms will actually get done.
Exactly. And what we'll probably end up having to do, which the play call is right now, is that we're going to do 20 agencies through regular appropriations, and then 2 agencies, ICE and CBP, because the Democrats won't allow anyone to vote for it on their side of the aisle. We're going to have to do it through reconciliation, which is fine, because we'll do it for 3 years for the president's term, and that way they can't shut down the government September 30th again, because we don't need to do this, for the 5th time since the Democrats started playing games like this.
Very last thing quickly,
Yeah.
you mentioned yesterday that you're taking a hard look at international airports. Can you talk about what options are on the table for sanctuary cities and CBP there?
Well, seeing that the Democrats want to defund Customs and Border Patrol, I have to prioritize where we're going to put Customs and Border Patrol screening at. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I mean, obviously I'll be visiting with the president about this, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that we would process Customs and Border Patrol at an airport and then release them to a city that they're not willing to enforce immigration policy. It just doesn't make any sense. Somebody may explain that to me. Maybe it's just Oklahoma common sense that says that we shouldn't waste the taxpayer dollars that way. Because if I'm going to have to prioritize where my agents are at, then let's work with communities, let's work with states that are going to work with the federal government to enforce immigration policies and laws. Yes, sir.
Secretary Mullin, I'm Chris Peterson with WXI TV. You talk about this backlog, and I realize you've only been in the role for 2 weeks, but do you have any sense of how this backlog happened, and what are you proposing to do to expedite funding to the people who need it here in Western North Carolina?
Backlog would be maybe prioritizing, putting our the most pressing issues forward, and making it a priority in the agency, making it a priority with FEMA. I mean, we have today. I'll be briefing the president on 22 other disasters around the nation. So the disasters are happening constantly. We have to start looking at where we're going to be when hurricane season starts, what's on the backlog to be able to move them forward so we aren't entering hurricane season behind. So we are trying to push this stuff forward as fast as possible, make sure that we are not overlooking, because when the next storm happens, last year we were very fortunate. we didn't have a hurricane hit the United States. So North Carolina has been able to be a priority for FEMA and for President Trump because nothing's taken its place. What we want to make sure is that it's taken care of before the next hurricane happens, because the chances of us having 2 seasons in a row without a hurricane happening just isn't very likely. But I'll be praying that it does.
A lot of this, I'd add, is just leadership, because we had the 100K threshold before, and that was really creating a bottleneck at the top level. But now that's been pushed down to trustworthy staff. Again, that's being reviewed because taxpayers deserve that. You want to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse, but that doesn't need to all go to one desk for the secretary. He's sharing that burden with his team, and he's put a good team together.
I'm going to go here, and then I'll get to you next. Yes, sir.
On the issue of FEMA reform, when the president last visited, he discussed the idea of phasing out FEMA. Is that idea still on the table?
No, I think the president was talking about, I've talked to the president a lot about this. Reforming FEMA is, I think, would be a better term of what we're trying to use. We want, the president said when Trump 45, he wants to get the dollar closer to the state. The closer we can get the dollar to the problem, the farther the dollar goes, because we know when we're dealing with federal contracts, everybody in this room knows that when you're dealing with federal contracts versus state contracts versus county contracts, the price seems to double because of the amount of bureaucracy and paperwork that you have to do to deal with federal government. So when we're looking at reform, the president wants to, like I said, we want to make sure we get it to the state faster and not look at FEMA as being the first responder, but look at FEMA as supporting the first responders.
Courtney Davis with Spectrum News. You know, it has been 18 months, and while there weren't other disasters and everything, a lot of people in Western North Carolina have told me that they do feel that they have been forgotten and everything. What is your message now that you're in this role? I know that you released the money for the 75 homes, but for the other people that are waiting for the next level to be approved and for that money to come through that are still waiting 18 months later, especially with hurricane season around the corner and some people still living in campers?
Well, first of all, by the look of the room, they haven't been forgotten. And I know, because I work with this federal delegation, that it's a conversation that happens almost every day. For what Rob said earlier, we got the first 75 out, but we're looking at the other ones. Honestly, we did this which ones are the easiest to get done, we're going to work all the way to the hardest ones. Sometimes maybe you should work at the hardest point and work the way to the easiest, but we got to get the money flowing at some point. That's part of the backlog. But hold tight. Federal government isn't going to take care of everybody's problems. That's not what we're designed to do. But we're there to help ease the pain. At the end of the day, we're going to do everything we can possibly do to make it happen, but I still got to be responsible for the taxpayers too.
Last question. One question. You had mentioned that the federal government could fund some of these as a main role as a funder. But do you anticipate that states should be taking on more of a role in that funding? And also to follow up on one of Nicole's questions, when can we expect a Senate-confirmed FEMA administrator?
Well, first of all, Karen's doing a great job as a placeholder for sure. I'm going through the process of trying to find a replacement right now. We may have identified someone, but we're still. It's a long process.
Care to share their name?
No. But it's a long process, and it's a large task ahead of us too. And the confirmation, man, I don't wish anybody to go through that confirmation process. That was an interesting experience, but it's still part of the process to have to go through. So, as far as funding, we don't really anticipate the state having any more financial burden. We just want to partner with them a little bit more. If FEMA, as I said, we shouldn't be the first ones in and the last ones out. The state is much more equipped. Neighbors are much more equipped. Local mayors are much more equipped. Emergency response from the states are much better equipped than FEMA, but we can be there to get them past the first heavy lift to let them start rebuilding, and then we can just be, hopefully the way I see it is that we can help fund the recovery after that. Ma'am, go ahead.
Secretary Mullin, Allie Bradley with News Nation. I wanted to follow up on the customs question, because if you do this at international airports, what would that mean for international travels and for imports? And also, have you been having any conversations with any leaders in any of these sanctuary cities about what this would look like, or about them working together?
We're going to start having those conversations. As I said, this is just something I'm thinking. This isn't something that I'm necessarily going to do, but it's when I have to prioritize where I'm putting my Customs and Border Patrol, because the Democrats aren't willing to fund Customs and Border Patrol, it only makes sense for us to do that. I mean, I'm not going to punish people that are wanting to fund Customs and Border Patrol, but I have to prioritize it because my funding only goes so far. And then when we start looking at sanctuary cities, as I said, if they're not enforcing immigration laws, then why would I be processing immigration in their city and turn them loose in their city?
But have they been screened at that juncture if they're being released by Customs and Border
To some
Protection?
degree, but we at Customs and Border Patrol, Port of Entries, we catch people every day, constantly. And we rely on local law enforcement sometimes to hold those individuals. We got to have cooperation to some degree. And so, like I said, this is just something we're talking about, because I have to prioritize, as I said, my Customs and Border Patrol, since they're not being funded, and the Democrats are wanting to defund them. And it's an option. All options are on the table right now. When we start looking at trying to streamline and make DHS more efficient, I'm looking at every aspect. What is it that we can do? Where are we wasting dollars? And then I'll be real honest with you. I don't think sanctuary cities are legal. We are a nation of laws. As the Secretary of DHS, I don't get to pick and choose which laws I'm going to enforce. Congress passes those. And for my Democrat colleagues that are working in the Senate, and I guess not my colleagues anymore, your colleagues, for the Democrats that are in the House and in the Senate, if you don't like the laws, then change it. Don't punish Customs and Border Patrol and ICE agents that we hired to do the job that you pass the laws for them to enforce. But if cities are going to sit there and say that they're not going to enforce immigration policies, then I'll repeat myself and say it doesn't make any sense for us to process international travelers through that city anymore.
Does the President know about this idea?
Well, we've had very top-line conversations, but I imagine this conversation will come up today when I'm talking to him. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate your time.
Bring down our equipment, but stay in this area.
No, you were good.
I was hoping I could make it back up after I called. Hopefully I have some practice shooting back.